Welcome back to the Boy to Man podcast, where we help you go from boy to man in mind, body, heart, and soul. This is episode 4. We're just going to go on record and say this is episode 4. We're going to roll from here. And this is lots of good stuff going on. I got a lot of things that I want to jam about. And we're moving to like a bi-weekly cadence just based off our schedules. I think it just makes sense. We actually didn't post last episode. I didn't really bring that up, but part of the reason I didn't feel the urge to post it was it just felt like very scattered with the episode, and then like the start, the end, which is still good to get reps in, and at the same time, there's no rush to like put stuff out if we don't feel like it's 100%. Valuable.
Yeah, and also just why put pressure on ourselves as well that we need to upload this and it has to be perfect. Just two guys chatting away
with some red light straps on.
Yeah, we're got the lasers on. That's what I'm gonna call these, the red lasers.
The lasers.
The laser glasses.
Yeah, I call them the red straps.
The red straps?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like them. Kind of like that. But the laser is also nice.
Yeah. Yeah, like you can just zap somebody.
Yeah.
From the distance.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you took these off. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, just think it's jokes. Like part of why we're wearing these is I think I just love these. Like outside of this podcast, I wear these every single day, especially at night. And then second of all, I think it's jokes to wear these for like social clips and just like ripping the podcast. Well, like you said, you might take them off. I took mine off like halfway through the episode last time.
Yeah.
But I think it's like a cool little signature thing to start the pod off.
It's a little quirk and easy to remember too. Like the guys,
red light guys.
Oh, the guys that wear the red glasses.
Wear the lasers. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yeah, easy to remember for sure. Yep.
Yeah. So, but update on Iron Man, because I think that's a good place to start. What's the last couple weeks been like for you? We are on week 6, or one day away from finishing week 6.
Yeah. I mean, dude, honestly, just proud of the consistency. I haven't missed.
Yeah.
Like it maybe creeps in like, it's just I worked long today, or I had this call, didn't go that well, and then maybe that was like the end of your day, and then that could prevent you from doing that second workout, or it's just like, this kind of came up. No matter what, we've continued to show up, and I think obviously the novelty's kind of worn off a little bit
for sure.
But what has been ingrained is just this no nonsense, non-negotiable new way of living life. Like it's just like, oh yeah, I got this 2,000 meter swim today. Oh yeah, we got this 2-hour bike today, and it just gets done. So proud of the consistency. I would say I'm feeling, in terms of like physiologically, more so on the bike side, bit more effortful this week in terms of I feel like some of just how much work we've been putting in is playing a little bit of catch up, whereas like we had a lot of momentum before, so it was easier to get done. But I don't know, for me, like in terms of just it's being a bit more agonizing getting it done, like nothing crazy, but that's how I felt. Either way, sick, like feeling good. Swims have been great. Today we went on a absolute send for our bike ride, and I think that is the absolute play to do, is because if you can combine a little bit of fun with it. So for anybody like, we love mountain biking, North Van 20 minutes away, so sent it on the mountain bikes today and committed to 2 long climbs. So 2 45-minute banger climbs.
Yeah, I don't even know how long it actually took. We just
those
took
are minimum,
Zach's words for
that. That was like, that actually felt like a good 45.
That was
I would say it bare minimum.
Yeah,
that was a 45.
Oh, I think if anything it was longer. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, right. So our bike ride today for the Ironman training was 2 hours, and we've just been ripping the bike stationary, right?
Yeah. Because we haven't found a road bike to buy yet.
Haven't found a road bike yet. So we're like, you know what? Let's take it outside, the sport we love, and just go for ascend. So combining that as the absolute play, let's try and commit to that, because
Oh,
I mean, I
super
have
down.
thoughts around like just biking in general and just what a sport this is. But yeah, definitely got out there and earned it today. And
Oh,
so,
did we ever?
dude, I'm like, I mean, just full transparency, like I could go straight nap city right now. I'm absolutely rinse out.
Yeah. I actually
But,
find doing stuff like this re-energizes, at least me,
Yeah.
re-energizes me when I'm like,
I would say that
lower
too.
energy.
The one thing, like, I don't know, the last like 4 days, like my strain's been 18.9.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like cooking strain, beat up the body in a good way. So there's definitely a little bit of like
Build up.
yeah, some lag there. But yeah, overall, Ironman training, feeling like a beast. Yeah, what's next? Like, keep going.
Week 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. The mountain biking is such a hack for us, at least, because again, like you alluded to, North Vancouver, we're just super blessed to have literally like the best trails in the world, or up there as the best trails in the world for mountain biking. And the fact that we can do that as a replacement to like the road biking, because really why we're training is for the endurance, right? Especially
100%.
most of these rips. So yeah, to expand off what Jordan was saying, part of the reason it was ascend was not only did we do 2. So for anyone that doesn't know, in mountain biking, how it operates is you can go to parks, but for the most part, you're like pedaling up a mountain, literally, all the way up to the top, and then you're riding down, and that's kind of your reward.
Yeah, exactly.
And so how we set it up was we went halfway up the mountain, and then biked the other half, and then we rode all the way down the mountain, and then we biked back up the half of the mountain where we parked to. And so all in, we were biking for probably like 3 hours or so. And 2 things. One, it was not pouring out, but it was just consistently raining. And then on top of that, the trails were just like extremely muddy.
Slick, yeah.
So slick, muddy, like which I was mentioning to Jordan, we got like no footage of it, but if you saw us, we're like
nuts that we didn't.
we were like, head to toe soaked, and our whole backside was just absolutely covered in mud. Which once you're in it, it's just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But like when you're trying to transition from like not that, it's just like you're sitting at the car and you're trying to change, and like we truthfully aren't the most prepared. We're like, we don't have a towel, or like don't have all the exchange of clothes. So it's still raining and whatnot. So that was part of why it was a scent. And then second of all, the way we did it was we go up on the road. So there's typically you can do a trail climb and climb up on the trail, and there's like switchbacks, and you're in the forest, and it's kind of more, like it catches your attention more or keeps your attention more. But when you're on the road, it's just like straight up the whole time, and there's no, like, it's just you and you when you're ripping.
Yeah.
So I found on the way up the second time, after we've rode for like basically 2 hours, I just like went in, and it was just so I was just locked in, and literally didn't stop once. I was just pedaling the whole time. I told myself, like, I'm not stopping once. I can gear down to the lowest one, whatever I need to do. And it was sick because you get in that zone with yourself, especially over like 45 50 minutes, whatnot, and it's like uphill literally the whole time, right? And so you're sending, and I just like started to like give myself different feedback loops. Like at one point, I'm just like, dude, I fucking love you. Let's fucking go. And I was getting hyped up with like Above Men, and just like I just found time to just think about what I'm doing with Above Men, and just reflecting on like the week and wins and whatnot. And so that was, one phase of the climb. And at one point I was like yelling out to myself, who's going to carry the boats? Who's going to carry the boats? And getting fired up that. And just like, just really committing, right? Because there's certain points where you're sitting there wanting to stop. And it's just like at any point you could totally stop pedaling.
Yeah.
There's no one holding you from stopping pedaling and taking a break, except for the commitment with yourself. And like how much does that mean to you? And I want to actually talk about the whole discipline thing, because I wrote, a huge memo on it last week. And so that was a super interesting piece around that. And then we got up to the top, and it feels so good to make big commitments like that to yourself and fully follow through with full integrity.
For sure.
And so, and another interesting thing was, have you ever heard of the Stockdale paradox?
No.
Okay, so it was basically General Stockdale. I forget his first name, George Stockdale, maybe. It's in the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, and it's called the Stockdale paradox, where Jim interviewed the general, and he's like, because he went in a concentration camp for X amount of years, and he's like, how did you make it through and were like mentally stable? And he's like, well, everyone that was too optimistic and kept setting expectations that didn't get met over and over and over again, they were setting themselves up to like for failure, basically mentally, right? Because in the expectations in the camp were, we're going to get out. We're going to get out. It's just next Christmas we're getting out. Next year we're getting out. And if that came by time and time again and they didn't get out, like it wore on them because they were optimistic, but then it just wore on them. And then there's the other people that it's like, we're never getting out, and they're very pessimistic, like on the other side. And so the Stockdale paradox was be infinitely optimistic and dedicated to the goal, and at the same time be brutally honest with the current situation you're in. Right? So in another way to put that for this situation is like be completely detached from the outcome. Like be 100% committed to it, and at the same time be 100% detached from the outcome that comes from it. Right? And so I was thinking about this idea because, as we were going up, I couldn't fully remember where the parking lot was, where we parked. And so I'm like, oh, I think it's just around this corner. Yeah. Oh, I think it's just this around, right? Sense, yeah. And so I'm sitting there watching myself like make commitments to myself. And then the commitment, I'd be like, oh, shit, it's not that. And then after the first couple of times, I remembered the Stockdale paradox. I'm like, even if it's not around this corner, I don't care. I'm just showing up, right? And then instantly, like, my mindset shifted. And then when I finally got there, I was like, yeah, I could see the sign. And then by the time I did that so many times, I'm like, I don't even care if that's a parking lot or not. I'm just showing up pedal after pedal until I'm actually at the car. And so it was a good little, like, self-journey up there because, of course, 45 minutes uphill, you're grinding, not stopping, etc. So that was great. And for me, I think the swims have been awesome for me lately, and been getting better on the technique. That's the one thing I love about doing stuff like this is each time, and this goes with anything that you're doing, you're growing in, like you're trying to get better in, which realistically, that's the point of life, right? Self-actualization is you can, to any degree that you want, really hone in on trying to get better at the smallest little things to the biggest things. And swimming, because we've never swam, for me, each time I get into the pool, like I'm really analyzing myself the whole time we're swimming. What can I do better? How's my stroke? Like, what do I think I'm missing? And part of it is going and learning what you don't know and then applying it. And part of it is just like getting the basics down, checking the boxes over and over again. Totally. So that was awesome because I felt like I made some really good progress and I was timing myself and getting some good flow in there. So all in all, week 6 for me, I think was really good.
Yeah, and then to add on to the swim too, much of the same is learning and applying, but it's also exercising for now. Principle from Kevin Trudeau is using conscious competence. In that moment, because I felt the same with the swim. I notice that when I'm sloppier, or I'm not, whatever you would call that, but you're like resting your arm as up like to your head and keeping it that tight to you.
Like when you go to take a breath? Or
no, when you go to so it's like grabbing and pulling for something like a pull-up basically, but like you have it kind of like if you were to like that. And so I notice that when I'm trying to go too fast or I'm forgetting the technique, that's when it's not like that and the arm is more wide and out to here and just kind of like not using your full
length.
Not using your full length, because the more stiff that you keep it and cut down like an axe basically and keep it firm, that's when you actually go hell of a lot faster. And so anyways, I've been like consciously aware of that, like, oh, I'm getting sloppy right now. Because I'm lacking on this front stroke right now, it's causing my hips to drop. And then that's why I'm slowing down. But if I can actually keep that arm straight in the water and come across my body and rest it as close as my head as possible, then I go
straight,
faster.
yeah.
And straight and keeping it like fucking like like straight.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally agree with you on that. And yeah, you just getting a little bit better and more aware each time that you get in the pool, that you get on the bike or whatever. For me on my side, when I was going up the first hill on the mountain bike, I was just saying I was just reframing, like, you know, when people say like, oh shit, I have to do that thing. And it's like, instead of saying like I get to, like going to the gym or something like that, just reframing that, like a simple choosing the correct languaging is so powerful. And so for me, like on the first leg up, because your legs are getting used to it and whatever, and it's like daunting, same thing. Just saying to myself, fuck, I love this. This is good right now. I need this. I committed to this. It was just, and I was saying it out loud to myself, because before we went on the ride, like we said, like, we're doing 2 laps today. We're doing 2 sends today. So yeah, cool to see. And then how I've thought about the mountain bike, mountain biking as well. It's a metaphor for life. Like, you're surmounting life's challenges through it, not just on the way up and how hard it is and getting out there and earning it and earning the send, but also just when you're riding down a slick ass, steep ass, rocks everywhere mountain that if you fall either way at that speed, you're fucked. And then you overcome that steep ass drop or that big drop, and it's like 5 feet and you got trees in front of you and all this, just so much shit going on, and you complete it every time that it's like, oh, we have this hard section coming up. It's just like you're just surmounting challenges each time you bike. Like, it's just such a gnarly sport. Like, it's nuts. I don't know. That's how it makes me feel unreal every time we do it.
Totally. Yeah. Well, you kind of got me thinking with just putting the idea that it's a life metaphor. I've thought that in ways, just even like climbing mountains, be it on a bike or just like, walking. But what that kind of unpacked for me as you were saying that was 2 things. One, like the more generic idea or metaphor would be, okay, you have to climb up, right? That's your challenge. That's the work you got to put in. And then you get the reward of riding down. Cool. But then what you were saying was like, okay, every bit is a new, challenge.
It's unknown every time as well.
Yeah. And so it's interesting about that. And this is something that I see a lot of men, specifically with women. I'm sure it shows up in other areas. Well, I'm confident it shows up in other areas, but with women specifically, and actually some of the guys in Above Men were talking about this in their girlfriends. And so back to the challenge, right? You're going down the hill and there's a couple gnarly bits. You hit the gnarly bits and you're like, whew, I got that, right? You have now 2 choices. You can be like, oh, I hit that gnarly bit, now I can relax.
Right.
Or you're like, that's gnarly bit and I got to recommit to this next piece.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you just relax and you go down the next section and you're not as tight as the last section, you're falling. You're eating shit, or you're not riding it as good, right? So the lesson there, or the metaphor there, is like, just because you overcame one challenge doesn't mean you get to take the brakes off, right? It's to take it off, take it easy. And the guy that takes it off is the guy that slows down in life and stops, right? Now, with women specifically, where I see this showing up is they deal with one challenge with their partner, right? They get in one fight, or they overcome one emotional kind of like turbulence with her. And they're like, hey, I dealt with that. Now I shouldn't have to deal with anything else with her right now, be it in this period or like in the relationship. And it's just like, no, like, it's never gonna end. Right. If you're gonna be in this partnership and it's a working relationship, you can never have the expectation that it's ever going to end, that of her wanting something from you, and for her to give you grief or challenging you, shit testing you, like those never end.
Yeah.
Right?
It's an infinite game.
But if you're constantly, again, going back to almost this expectation versus reality with the Stockdale paradox, if you're optimistic in the way that like, okay, after a certain point, she's going to give me a break. You don't want her to give you a break, because that's when you get the break. That's when you become lazy.
Yeah.
That's when you become complacent in the mind. That's when you become complacent in the relationship. You never want it to end, the challenge to end, because then again, there's nothing to grow after that. And the whole point of life, if we play the game according to Maslow and according to Aristotle, eudaimonia via arte, flourish, right? Putting your virtues in action. What one can be, one must be, et cetera, et cetera. But the guys, they think that at some point it's going to end. Right, and I'll take this to Phil Stutz, Brian Johnson's mentor, and I've learned a few things from him. He's got some great books. He's like, you're never exonerated from poo. And so what does poo stand for? Pain, uncertainty, and hard work. You're never exonerated from pain, uncertainty, and hard work. But the problem is, we think at some point, when at some destination down the road, we get the collect 200 and chill for the rest of your life card.
Right.
First of all, why do you want that? And if you do want that right now in your situation, what's going on in your situation that you're not perceiving as a commitment that you made, as a choice you made, back to what you were saying, as a blessing in life, taking it as granted, not for granted. The fact that you're even alive, being able to get challenged by this stuff should be more than enough to feel grateful. But then I would question what's going on in your world, what's up here and actually in your environment. And then B, why would you want that? Like even if you got the the pass, the retirement card, let's call it, then what? Back to that question.
You just wither away.
Then what? Yeah,
exactly.
Again, if you're not growing, you're dying, and I believe that 100%.
Yeah, totally. It goes back to like why people are more sad in retirement.
Dude,
once they have no like projects, they have the money, whatever, the wife's there. But what, you're just going to sit there, read the newspaper?
Golf every day, like fucking...
That's where the dementia comes in.
Yeah,
like
bingo.
Rickety fucking bones, like you're not moving
that's
anymore.
When like depression even sets in, totally.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. About the on the women's side too, with that, like think about how that shows up in the relationship when you do get complacent or bored or you just settle, or how people call, like, for what the woman will say is, I don't know, we just stopped dating. He never takes me on dates anymore.
Yep.
Right? That shows up on the woman's side. And then on the guy side, like, and what the woman will say about the man is that, I feel like he just never listens to me. And it's just this constant back and forth, back to your point of what you're saying right now, and how like you expect in the relationship the la-di-da, kind of like the warm and fuzzies are going to continue, and like, okay, you got that happy wife, happy life, and then you can kind of just
chill and the work is done.
Exactly. But it's like you don't get married and it's all good. It's like it's just an infinite game. You continue to play whatever that game is, and both have to show up for each other to make each other happy and do the work, do the dates. Don't leave the kitchen up in cahoots and sit there watching football and drinking beer, and then your wife gets home and she's like, fucking
and then she gets mad at you, and then you're like, well, I cleaned the kitchen once. Right. It's just like, no, like, this is a forever commitment.
Exactly.
In all areas. And this is why and I was just having a conversation with Sasha about this, one of the guys inside the program, about labels early on in relationships, I think are actually not a great thing. And part of that is because when you're first getting into a relationship, and you put a label on it too early, one of many reasons why I don't like labels early on, but one of them is the risk for complacency. And why, when you put the label on it, part of the label comes with security. And when security seeps in, again, when we look at a job, what happens when someone gets almost neutered in a job, right? They become docile, and they stop growing. Back to this idea, they stop growing because they feel safe, secure. Oh, I don't need to do anything else. I got everything I need. And so when you put a label on, you're like, oh, I got her, right?
Right.
I caught her,
Yeah.
right, in a way.
Yeah.
And so you stop going on the dates.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
stop having, you know, the intellectual conversations. You stop doing the whatever thing that you were doing prior to putting the label on it. And this is, again, back to the whole dating piece, but again, it just never ends, right? And if you're doing certain things in anticipation of like making it end at some point, like, I think you're doing it wrong. You should be playing, as you've said this a few times, you should always be trying to play the infinite game. The finite game is a not that fun game to play relative to the infinite game.
So when this is, I mean, yeah, I totally agree about the label thing. How would, and I have my take on this, you know, if anybody who knows me and stuff, like I haven't had that full, like, flourishing, like, deep, you know, love for anybody yet, but I do believe I'm wise enough to, like, take that on and know what I want and how I would show up. Would there be mild arguments and things that would need to be changed, or could have handled that better? Of course. But if I'm, let's you know, because I'll use myself as an example because it's easy. I'm approaching potentially making that woman my girlfriend, the love of my life, you know, that. So it's redefining, what does that label mean to you? Like if I'm going to make her my girlfriend, right, and put that label on it, but if I approach it with what I've defined as, like, what my girlfriend means to me and how that would make me show up, then I would say, as a mature, wise, masculine man who has clarity around that, that would be okay. So I guess what I'm saying is that for how you're talking about it and being careful with, which I agree with, the issue there is that whether it's the woman or the man, and how most people get into relationships, and that's why they fail and they become complacent about each other and don't show up for each other, etc., and it just withers away and the love dies out and there's no polarity anymore. The approach would be to, I guess, as a framework, define what that label would mean to you, and how are you going to make sure that you hold yourself to that standard of, like, what it means to be her man.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Does that clear 100% on that?
Yeah.
I think it's just approaching it, like, with, okay, what does that label mean to you? So labels is, like, the wrong way, like, yeah, because if you label each other too quick and they don't have that foresight, or like actually how to show up and how to be more assertive and not passive and like have that defined, and she's a feminine woman, and because you don't know yourself or how to show up, then that creates, like, what would be the opposite of polarity, dispolarity, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I think if you define what does that label mean to you, then it's okay to place that label on whatever that relationship is.
Yes, and that goes for the other partner, because it takes two to tango. Right. So
yes,
there's two parts to this. You're bang on in the sense of, you as the man should think about, especially as a self-actualizer, if you're, you know, an above man, you would get really clear on how you want to show up in a relationship. In above man, I actually get the guys, when the conversation of women comes up, dating, and they're like, you know, I don't know what I want from a woman. One of the exercises they get them to do is actually go and label, and I've mentioned this to you, go and write out all of the, at this current stage of your awareness in your relationship or dating experience, what are all of the key characteristics that you want out of a relationship, first off? And then second off, how do you need to show up to not only attract but keep a woman like that? And then how do you want to show up, right? Yeah. And there's going to be this, like, blend that all of a sudden shows itself, that's where a relationship's really going to work for you. So that, yes, the first thing would be getting clear on yourself. And you say that very nonchalantly, because I think we're in this world, but it's something that actually very few guys and girls do. And so, yes, again, totally, it's wise of you to say, but being mindful that it's like, yeah, dude, anyone out there that has never thought about how they're supposed to, or how they want to show up in a relationship. I shouldn't say supposed to. There's no shoulds or supposed tos, etc. But how you want to and what it looks like for you to show up if you want to attract that other partner, right? What is that partner? Who is she? What does she look like? What is her characteristics? And then what is she going to expect of you, right? Like, you know, it's the classic guy working at McDonald's expecting a Victoria's Secret model. It's like, brother, you're not going to ever get a Victoria's Secret model because you haven't understood that what a Victoria's Secret model wants is nothing remotely close to a guy that works at McDonald's and all the baggage that comes along with that.
Right.
But once you're clear on that, now you understand like how far away am I from that? And again, this is going down a different conversation. But step one is identify that. But there's two parts to that. One, there's you as how you're showing up, but then there's your partner. And so the partner piece is more important on both sides. And I'll tell you why if we want to go down this path is you both have unconscious for the most part. Again, if you're really switched on, you do a lot of critical thinking. This might not be as unconscious, but what I typically see is it's pretty unconscious where you've gone your whole life, right? I'm 26, you're 31, 32, and we've had many years of going through, seeing different things, seeing different people of what it means to be a boyfriend, what it means to be a girlfriend. And all of those years has been building up this picture of what it means to have a girlfriend, what it means to be a boyfriend. And in doing so, we need to clarify what those are. And then vice versa, what's our partner? They've also gone through 26, 30, whatever years of being a girlfriend and then having a boyfriend. So what are all those mental things that are built up that it's like, as soon as I put a label on you and I'm someone's boyfriend, what are they expecting of me? And am I even aware of that? Because what happens is, especially if we go, and this is why I say don't put labels on things early on, because it's unneeded friction. And I'll actually explain one of the biggest reasons that I think opens up a lot of people's minds on this. But I put a label on things, right, on both sides. All of a sudden, it comes with all of this expectation of, hey, this girl now, based off of all her history prior to dating me, is now expecting those things from me. Because that's what she's gotten in all of her dates. And you actually mentioned this when we were biking, is like anytime I go on a date now, I'm putting it through the lens of my best date that I've had, the best girl that I've been with. And so you're putting those expectations on somebody. We're not even dating. Imagine going to dating now, right? Because now there's such a high level of importance.
Right. Yeah. The only, and I still haven't fully clarified this, and this is what I said today, is yes, agree. But if you're using that comparison, which is one side of the sword, then the other side of that is like, okay, well, you know what you want, but then it's also like, are you sure that is what you want, or was that just like a rush, or was that lust, or you know, who knows? But it's just that fine kind of like line between, okay, it's shown you from your past and the girls that you've been with and the great times that you had, and while it didn't work out because of so many different reasons why, that was good, and you know that feeling that you're looking for, and then you take that girl out on a date, and because she doesn't meet those standards, it's like, well, are you self-sabotaging? Is it too quick? Are you being too quick to judge? Or do you have enough trust with yourself, like intuitively, that, wait, I know how I feel on that date, or I know how I usually respond to women that I've been with in the past that I really liked, and I could tell very quickly, kind of thing. So how do you, that's just like,
I think we're talking about two different things now. Because now you're talking about like getting to know a woman up front, and I'm talking about, or what we were just talking about is like putting a label on someone and when to do that.
Right. Yeah. I guess I was just now kind of going on a tangent on your example.
Yeah. No, if we go back to like, just to close this loop up of putting a label on things, the idea is that don't put a label on it too soon. And I'll wrap this up with the main reason why. All a label is, right, is a status signal to the outside world that we're a certain like in a certain relationship that would otherwise like tell everyone, hey, we're exclusive, you know, keep the boundary, etc. That's really all label is when you boil it down. Yeah, because I'll do a little mental exercise here. Take everyone in the world and just like remove them. It's only you and that individual. Okay. Would calling her your girlfriend actually mean anything at that point?
Yeah, no.
No. So only when you bring in other individuals, the labels actually have a meaning. But the dangerous part is labels actually go one step further, and there's weight, I think, incorrect weight placed on labels between the individuals that then cause these like biases and poor expectations that are a lot of the time unconscious to be set. And so if you put a label on things too quick, those expectations and those biases come up before you have a chance to really fully flush out what those are and have conversations around them, right? Where what really matters is if we put the labels aside for a second, what we're really after when we're trying to get into a relationship with someone is, can we build up a bond between each other through the experiences we have with each other, the conversations, and the underlying values that we both have? Are those in alignment? Can all of that turn into a bond that we really want to devote time, money, energy, attention to each other and go in one direction with each other with a shared goal of, again, giving each other emotional support, you know, whatever your goals are with a relationship? That's what's really important about a partnership. And when you're getting to know someone, it's not about putting a label on it, but people want to play the status game and say, I want a girlfriend or boyfriend. And they get a joy out of that. And sometimes dangerously, they're getting more of a kick out of the status that I have a boyfriend, I have a girlfriend, than the bond you're getting from someone. And so, but again, to wrap this up, by putting the label on too early, you're causing those unnecessary expectations and biases to get mixed into trying to build a bond and see if this is the right person for you. And so that's why I say, don't put labels on things until me and Jamie were now dating, and it was literally just shy of a year before we started dating. Like before I actually said, do you want to be my girlfriend? Like we started talking last February, basically like on Valentine's Day last year. And I just asked her to be my girlfriend probably 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago. Right. And did anything happen in between all that time leading up to it that like caused us to all of a sudden be in a worse position because we didn't call each other our boyfriend, girlfriend? No, we still experienced each other's, you know, emotions. We still had a great time. Because again, we're not worried about what other people are thinking here.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah. And I think, you know, love Jamie, and she's totally like aligned in terms of like what you want out of life and like how she's built herself up and like where she's going to. So that's awesome. And I think what you're saying too is that, yeah, and that's why I've been on my side, like haven't rushed into relationships, because people, what you're saying is they get into it for the wrong reasons. They just rush in. It's more so to say that I have a boyfriend or I have a girlfriend.
That could be part of it for sure.
Part of it. So
again, the label thing could mean so many different things, depending on the person. And again, what is their experience leading up to it? Right. And what is their internal stuff? Because a perfect example, one of the reasons certain individuals, primarily individuals that have a lot of insecurities and they don't have a lot of high confidence in themselves, one of the reasons they use labels is a way to try to trap that person, to catch them, because that means more to them than if I'm very self-assured. I'm like, listen, hey, like, whether you want to stay with me or not, that's on you, and we're gonna find that out through the bond. At no point do I need a label to keep you around, because I know my value. You're gonna want to stay around because of who I am. And I'm gonna want to stay around you because of who you are. But an insecure individual is doing it to try to keep someone trapped.
You would use the label as to like to tie to get them in the knot and a trap. Exactly.
And then let's play that out. How do you think that's working? If that's the thing they're optimizing for, that's not a relationship that's lasting.
You'll always be like you got to do more, not good enough. always be in a state of
a state of lack,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you're putting a label on someone because I'm worried you're gonna leave.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we're in a constant state of lack. Everything we do,
Yeah.
any little move the girl does, all of a sudden I'm gonna be like,
yeah,
oh fuck, is she gonna leave? Is she gonna leave? You know?
Imagine. Oh my God, that's nuts. You're literally playing a role, a character that's not you, because you didn't go into it with a clear mind or clear, like, proper intention and have it fully fleshed out with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you're literally playing. It's a facade.
Yeah.
You're literally playing a character and pretending
Mm-hmm.
in all areas of that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what that would bleed into when she's out at work, or when she's went out for dinner with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Or, fucking man, that would be nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually,
and people, dude, that's the thing though. It's like, you just know still, because it happens all the time. You see it all the time. People, anything is in the people they got that, you know, some of your past experience, and like some of the guys that you would coach as well, like you know as well as I do, see it all the time.
mm-hmm.
My friend group as well, like,
Mm-hmm.
no need to name names, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
It's actually crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you want to be out and above man about it, don't rush to put a label on it.
Yeah.
And if you are rushing, or if the girl is rushing you to put a label on it, because again, typical, you know, gender roles, you're going to be the one that asks her out, etc. But she can pressure you, oh, you know, like, what are we, da-da-da. Like, if that's the case, question why you're rushing into it, because there's probably some sort of shadow that's going on, some sort of insecurity, some imbalance going on internally.
Yeah.
Or on her end, why is she rushing you? Why is it so important that she is securing you, and all of a sudden there is a status to what you are?
Right. Just to play devil's advocate,
Yeah.
so because this is a valuable conversation
Yeah.
for whoever's going to listen to it, for us as well, as we air all this out.
Yeah.
Just scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a scenario for
Yeah.
you. that relationship's gone on now. You guys have been, you know, it's been a year, like you and Jamie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's like dialed in girls, got good things going on, great head on her shoulders. You guys have great this, great that, great whatever. How like, because with the gender role, like, I could see more of that coming on, that pressure from the women, just based on experience and what you've heard from whoever you've talked to. How do you then go about, like, when you question her, but you're also like, you guys have gone on trips together, you've had these types of conversations, you've done these type of dates, and the guy just hasn't said, will you be my girlfriend yet? At what point does it just go on too long where, okay, like, no, but actually, like, what are we? Because I do understand from a woman's perspective why there would be, hey, dude, do you want to make this like official or not, kind of thing. And I think I would understand without rushing, if it's coming from that kind of place, like, how do you manage that? Is that setting like communicating that earlier on and having those open discussions about your views on that and where that could lead to? It's just interesting for me, as because I think it's correct. It's just like, that's also like, okay, well, we've been at it for 3 years, bud. What are we doing? You know?
Yeah.
You know, so where at what point, how do you go about that? If that does arise.
Yeah, I mean, this is by no means a perfect thesis, but my take on this, going through 2 relationships now using this mental model, is been around like that, between that 6 to 12 month mark. And why I say that is, typically within 6 to 12 months, a full life cycle has happened. So something that I've been thinking a lot about, partly because I deal with a lot of my clients are in seasonal businesses. And so with seasonal businesses, different things arise for them in terms of their schedule, what their role is, and da-da-da. And I've also been thinking that in my own life. And it's been interesting because, again, if you think about 6 to 12 months, you go through the majority of the seasons with them. And so with that, like a lot of the shifts that are typically going to occur in someone's life will come up in that 6 to 12 month period.
That makes sense, actually.
So that's part one.
Yeah.
Part two is, I think, with me and just looking at the two main relationships that I've used this on, both cases, there was a few like hinged life events that I was like waiting to see. And once those kind of unfolded, seeing what life would be like after those have unfolded. So that could be just like a case by case for me. Because I know one of the guys that I was actually having a conversation with, he was the opposite, where it's like that life event is occurring right now, and there's actually a very valid reason to actually start dating instead of waiting. And so it could be case by case, but those two pieces kind of play into it, because for me, I'm looking for a partner that I can continuously grow with. And so going back to the 6 to 12 month window paired with the life event thing, I'm evaluating my partner. Can they keep growing with me? And are they willing to grow with me as we go through a small little snippet of life together? Because again, 6 to 12 months, especially as guys like us, a lot of fucking shit can happen. Yeah. And with that, how does the partner fare with that? Right? Yeah. And are they also showing that they're growing? And with that, every time there's an opportunity for her to grow and the opportunity comes up and she, hits it, it's like, okay, that's another checkbox. Like, and I'm just kind of evaluating for me. Again, this is just my personal take. By no means is this like textbook stuff. I'm just constantly evaluating until I feel extremely certain in all of the areas that I'm looking for in the relationship and the expectations that she's having of me and I'm having of her, and those match, that those are really certain. Now, is everything clear? No, but like enough of the big boulders are like, I feel good about those. Everything else we can probably take care of if we really are committed to working on it. So that's my take, at least. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
No, I think
that's a great question. I've never actually had to explain that.
I think it's super valid, like they're going through the cycles and the seasons and the life events, because just in how somebody reacts to that, how they deal with that, like, and then the repercussions of that and how they take that on internally, and then how does that go outwardly to you and your relationship. So I think that's actually, I've never heard anyone say that, so I think that's super valid. As you were saying that, I thought of the vacation test. Have you heard about this?
I was actually just about to bring this up.
Yeah. I think it's super. I think it's a great idea. I think this is. I'll come back to that. So the
vacation test.
So the whole idea is that basically before you go and tie the knot is that you go on a trip together, and so whether that's Mexico, doesn't matter. Spend a week together. Yeah. But just live, because you're living together essentially. Totally. So the first time, I mean, you haven't like done that with somebody in 6-8 months. You're just dating and it's all la-di-da, and like you come over, you're cooking and playing board games. That's all great stuff. But that's the next level, right? Like you don't know what their bathroom looks like, how they keep that. Like little arguments just because you're in each other's space and stuff like that. You don't know what's going to arise there. It's the vacation test. You go spend a week together in whatever destination, live with each other, and then that is can be an ultimate test to see if this is actually going to be like long term. So that is ideally something you would do before marriage or moving in together essentially, which I think makes so much sense. Like it's so worth it. Just because it's it could be $2,000 or something like that. Yeah. But like what's that for the type of guys who are interested in this stuff? You're gonna spend that all day for somebody for the rest of your life. Just to know that am I potentially wasting 5 years in absolute agony and money and whatever that deals with and puts on your mental for me to just do this week in Fiji and see what it's all about.
Yeah, you're still going to get a sick time out of it either way. Which, after unpacking all this, I actually saw one more kind of benefit, I guess, from prolonging the label, which I think is actually really, really powerful. And this is playing off of bias called the sunken costs fallacy. Have you heard of it before?
Nope.
Sunken cost fallacy?
Nope.
No, okay.
Maybe I've heard of it.
So the sunken cost fallacy is actually super powerful, and it's a really good mental model that if anyone hasn't heard of it, you should totally keep that in mind. Basic premise is this. If you've put any time, energy, money into something, you're going to be more likely to want to keep doing it simply because you've made a prior investment of some resource into it. Okay? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so perfect example is if you start a business and you invest 10 grand and you put a bunch of hours into it and you maybe even invest your status, you tell a bunch of people I'm starting this business, right? And then it ends up being the fucking worst business idea ever. And you know deep down it's like, this thing is not going to work. It's not what I want to do long term. What happens is, if you're not aware of this bias, is because you've invested the time, because you've invested all the resources, you're going to be more likely to try to stick it through because of the resources you've invested in it. And the more resources you've invested in it, the more you're going to want to really make it work. And a lot of the time that actually hurts, right? It's like the analogy of like sometimes it's less painful to let go of the rope than keep holding on, or it's more painful to keep holding on and let go of the rope, whatever, right? So going back to the dating piece, say 3 months goes by, oh, I'm in love with you, like, let's date, right? Well, if she turns out to be the wrong girl, especially if you're not fully dialed in and you have a lot of confidence in yourself, sunken cost fallacy comes in play. I've committed my status, because labels are status, to the outside world. I'm dating this girl. I've committed time. I've committed money. I've committed all this stuff. And because of that, I might be more likely to actually try to make this work with a girl that actually isn't going to work out because of the sunken cost fallacy, which is a very valid and present concept I see in a lot of decision making. And so what happens is, if you're an above man, right, and you have value to offer to the world, and you're growing, and you're making changes in your income, and you're doing things, and all of a sudden you can attract a better woman, but you're stuck because you didn't consider the sunken cost fallacy. You didn't listen to Cam Russell over the Boy to Man podcast, and you make the decision. You could actually be stuck with a lesser partner and allow your genes to propagate in a lesser optimal gene pool because of that, because you went the full distance of, hey, just because you started dating at month 3 instead of month 6. Right. Something that just came up, and I think that's actually a really powerful thing to think about.
Damn, that's so important. Then why you need to continue working on yourself. You need to keep building up your self-confidence, immerse yourself and set yourself more challenges, and just go after what you want. Because men, women, they just won't do that. It's just a dream. There's doer and the dreamer. The people who are a guy watching the surf, the 20-foot wave, and the guys who are standing there, fuck, I wish I could do that, right? And so if you don't do that, and then this girl who you think that you like appears into your life, and you're like, oh, this feels good. This doesn't happen too often. And you still have this insecurity baggage that you haven't dealt with, inner childhood trauma. You haven't done the breathing exercise that you know you should, or whatever that is. And then that comes along. It's just what she's actually manifesting as is, oh, this is kind of nuts, is unrealized potential in what could show up in your actual partner who's actually better for you. But you won't get that because you haven't shown up for yourself yet or built yourself up. You know what I'm saying there? Because if you did, then you wouldn't deal with that. You'd have the ability and the foresight to understand that I'm not going to use a label here. I have boundaries. I need to assert myself here. I'm not going to let her do that. And when that's out of line or out of alignment, you're like, okay, I can do away with this because this just doesn't serve me how it should.
Yeah, bingo. Yeah, that's great.
Whoa. That's nice.
I'm gonna wrap this whole dating thing label up, which it tangented. It was in a tangent, and then that became a whole topic, which was I think super valuable.
Has just been feeding.
It's been super valuable. So I'm gonna wrap it up though, because the one question that I've gotten every time I've explained this concept to guys, they're like, dude, this makes so much sense. I like it. But what happens when the girl approaches me and she's like, dude, are you going to ask me out or not? What the fuck? Two things are going to happen here. One, depending on where you're at, your self-confidence might be like, oh, fuck, she's going to leave me. Right? If that's the case, you got to check yourself. How certain are you in yourself and what you bring to the relationship? Because if you're uncertain about how you're showing up and what value you're bringing, you're going to be in a constant state of lack, and you're going to feel like you need to constantly over-deliver in the relationship. That's one thing. If you feel like when she brings that up, you're almost in this panic. Like you're about to lose something there.
Yeah.
Two, how you properly deal with this as an above man is you explain basically what we are talking about. You have the conversation with her. Listen, the only reason we want to put labels on it, or the only reason labels exist, whether this is true for you or not, and let's talk about it, is for the status of letting everyone know that we're exclusive, right? In the early stages, it should be about the bond, and you should want to be here because of what I'm delivering, and I want to be here because of what you're delivering. No contract. There shouldn't be anything holding us to being here.
Yeah.
That's it. And actually having that conversation with her, and I've had that with both Jamie and Nava, and it just sits with them so well because it's like, it makes sense. It's like, listen, I'm trying to get to know you. I'm not trying to hold you to anything, right? So that's how you do it. If you're wondering what goes on, all you do is you just have the conversation like we're explaining it, why this is important. And it's because I want to get to know you in who you are,
For sure.
not the expectations and mental biases that come along with a label.
And yet, one more thing to that too, I think this maybe goes without saying, but also it's important to share too, is just let your actions speak. That
Bingo.
This is going somewhere. This isn't leading to a dead end. Give her the trust in herself and with you that by your actions and your
Bingo.
dating, that this is going somewhere, and that conversation can be handled as well, because then you have the support of all the actions that you've done with her the entire time leading up to that conversation. So
actually, two other pieces to that. One, you should be fully confident in yourself about that. Is just like, I know what I'm bringing. Like, I know she's going to want to hang out here. And again, if you have the worry that, oh, where's she going to go? Like, she's going to run away if I don't ask her out. It's like, dude, get more self-confidence. Like, or better yet, prove to yourself that you should be more confident in yourself by doing valuable shit. Become a more valuable man, right? So, that's number one. Is just like, if you're worried about, not being able to hold on to a girl, especially if you see her as a high value woman, ask yourself, are you even fucking high value?
Yeah, totally.
That's number one about the actions things, because that's what that is, really.
Yeah, totally.
And then the other part of it comes down to like really getting real with yourself around what you want and having certainty that that's even what you want, right? So it's like, okay, if you're going to ask her out, are you asking her out because this is actually what I want? Or are you asking her out because it's just the natural flow of the relationship? And I bring this up because the one guy I was having the conversation with, he was like, I feel the urge to ask her out to keep the relationship exciting and to progress the relationship forward.
Interesting.
And it's like, if you're asking her out simply to keep the relationship exciting, we're going down the wrong path here.
Your answer right there.
And so if you have certainty on like what you want and why you're asking when it does come, then you're clear on the reason why, and you're not just you're clear that it's the right reason, and you're not just doing it to optimize for excitement or progressing the relationship, right? Because it really shouldn't be that by any means. So, oh, sorry. One last piece was, and this is actually really valuable, is if this goes both ways, but I'm going to talk to the man here about the idea of discipline. If you're also asking her to be your girlfriend out of fear that you can't go and control yourself, or if she wants you to ask her out because she can't trust you about your actions of talking to other women, sleeping around, etc. And this is going to segue actually to what I want to talk about, which is discipline. fucking check yourself. Like if you literally have this fear that it's like, man, if I'm not in a relationship, I'm gonna be constantly texting girls, Snapchatting girls, whatever, like trying to be on Hinge.
Never thought. Sorry, that's just kind of nuts to me that people deal with that. I've never. I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying, like, almost like, wow, like even single, I've never had that feeling, not once.
Yeah, well, you got to think like why do certain people like constantly mistrust their partner? A lot of the time, the mistrust comes from their own internal lack of commitment to something, and so they're constantly like, hey, is this guy talking to other girls? Well, it's like, why is the girl thinking that? Because she's actually talking to other guys, or she's thinking about talking to other guys, right? A lot of times, problems in the relationship show up internally first and foremost as personal problems. So if that's the case, like, you got to get the discipline to yourself of like, man, if you can't even freaking manage your own self about like, okay, if I'm going to commit to someone, I'm going to commit to something. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah. Right.
Which brings up the other big topic that I wanted to jam on is discipline. And the idea of it, and I think it's timely because the Iron Man, a lot of that. But then just where I'm at with Above Men, if you haven't subscribed, go to aboveclub.co/memos. I run a newsletter called Memo to Men, and I just released a banger called How to Be Disciplined, How Anyone Can Achieve a Goal that they deem worthwhile. And really what I did was I looked at the idea of discipline, and I pretty much systemized it. That it's almost fail-proof if you follow these steps, that you can be disciplined as well. And I kind of want to like unpack this, and I'd be interested to see like, what questions come up for you as I unpack that. And then also, what are you doing? What aren't you doing? Is there anything else that you want to add? So preface this, the reason I wrote this memo at this moment, because there's hundreds of topics I could talk about inside of Above Men. And the reason I wrote this memo is I actually did a survey. I think I have like 50 answers now on it. It's just kind of like growing. And one of them is I had a list of all the common problems that I see men dealing with in today's world, right? Things like, lack of purpose, don't know what to eat, don't know how to train, low energy, poor focus, addicted to my phone, like a bunch of them. I think there was like, 25 different options you could pick. Out of all the responses, the number one that showed up was lack of discipline. The number one. And guess what was number two?
Purpose?
No, it was up there, but addicted to your phone.
Yeah.
And first of all, they go hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say, as you said, discipline, I was just like trying to understand that, because everything that you just mentioned, focus, phone, so on and so forth, the answer is discipline.
Great point.
To all of that.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting because they all are, it's kind of like chicken and egg kind of thing, right? So then I'm like, oh shit, like this is the number one thing, at least in my community, that the guys are dealing with. And if I had to extrapolate, I truly believe discipline is the thing that's missing for all young men, if not all men, in North America right now, in the state of the world. So I wrote this memo, and how I like to operate is like, I'll go really deep on a topic. I'll go like, study some books, articles, go to my own content, go to my own thinking. What am I doing in my life? Because I would consider myself a very disciplined person, and really just break it down into concepts that just make sense. And then in this case, like I just fully systemized it. So how to be disciplined comes down to 3 steps. And I want to explain the actual meaning of discipline, but the 3 steps are this. Step 1 is you architect a disciplined life. Okay. So you have to actually put into place a life that actually emulates discipline. So what does that mean? I'll unpack that. Step 2 is you need to cultivate willpower. You need to develop and strengthen your willpower. Willpower is a muscle, and it can be worked on and grown over time. So you need to be constantly cultivating and growing your willpower. Okay. First of all, I'll also unpack willpower. And then third is you need to systemize consistency. Okay. Because the first 2 doesn't matter if you can't do them over time. Time is the thing that makes everything happen. Again,
Yeah, it cements everything.
yeah, Albert Einstein called it, the eighth wonder of the world, right? Compound interest, which is basically consistency. So, first of all, I want to define discipline and willpower. For you, would you think discipline and willpower is the same thing? Or how would you differentiate them if you don't think they're the same thing?
You said cultivate willpower?
So do you think, when you think of the word discipline
Yeah.
and you think of the word willpower, do you think they're basically the same word? Or they mean the same thing? Or is there differences?
Just off the top, I think like willpower is just having the will no matter what to continue to show up. And discipline is being disciplined about the will. So yeah, somewhat of the same.
Yeah. It's like what are they?
Right now?
Yeah. But that was very like blurry.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So that's a problem, right? Because the first step, and in the memo I talk about this, the first thing I want you to understand is the difference between discipline and willpower. Okay, because it's very important. Because if you think they're the same, if you think they're somewhere along the lines of just like they mean self-control, and they're just like different versions of self-control, synonyms, you're actually limiting yourself, and you're not actually able to see it clearly. So if we were to unpack this, discipline is the ability to structure your behaviors and actions towards a long-term objective or set of values. Okay, so willpower then is the mental muscle of discipline. It's the ability to resist short-term temptations, or more importantly, it's your ability to continue to make the right decision based off of the discipline that you've set up for yourself. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah. Right.
That clear?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
Because you're basically like taking the word discipline and then, like you said, making it an archetype and attaching like the discipline is like a discipline is like a modality, like a way of thinking or a teaching. Like this discipline I'm learning. So
that's a little bit different. That's a different meaning of discipline.
Right. So I guess how I interpreted that is that you're taking the archetype and like whatever the discipline is, and the willpower is, forget how you put that.
So let me expand on it. Yeah. So where you're trying to go there is discipline is the system. It's a structure. It's I wouldn't say archetype, but it's the architecture of whatever you're going after. Okay. So there's a missing piece that we haven't explained that brings this all together. But if discipline is the system, willpower is the adherence. Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't be disciplined by being disciplined, but you be disciplined by having willpower.
Right.
Okay. So if you say I'm disciplined, you're not actually saying I have discipline, but what you're saying is I have the willpower to repeatedly make the right decisions based off of the goal that I've set for myself within the discipline. Okay. So it's really important. Okay. Because now this is starting to make sense on why step one is architect a disciplined life. Okay. So when we unpack this a little more, the first thing is what are we being disciplined for? Because for you to be disciplined for something and for me to be disciplined for something, we could make the action that is right for you but wrong for me, and both of us are disciplined. So why does that matter? Because you have a different goal than me. So to be disciplined, you need a goal. That is the number one thing. And I want everyone listening to understand this, that if you want to be disciplined, you need to have a goal. And you might say, yeah, I have a goal. You need to have absolute clarity on your goal. This is why I constantly harp on Flourishing Self book. Having your goal book, having your goal book, having your goal book. Because without the goal, okay, this is where it all comes together. Without the goal, there is no right or wrong. There is there is no input that is clearly moving us towards or away anything.
Which would then cause anxiety, lack of clarity, confusion.
Totally. But what more importantly, it gives us the guidance to say, this is when we're being disciplined, aka taking the right action towards the thing, or this is when we're not, when we have the end point. Okay. Example, I want to become shredded. Okay. I want to be 200 pounds, sub 10% body fat. I want visible abs and say, whatever, I'm out of shape right now. That's my goal. The inputs of that goal would be eat a certain amount of food, don't eat certain food, track my meals, go to the gym. Okay, let's just use those first three, right? Eat certain food, track my meals, and go to the gym. Those are my inputs to move towards my goal. And I know when I do those, I'm going to move towards my goal. That's architecting the disciplined life at the very base. Is I know these are my inputs. This is my goal. This is what I need to do. All right? Now you have the willpower to either do them or not do them. Right? But the disciplined life is saying these are my inputs to move towards my goal. Now you're architecting a life by saying, I'm going to put these three things into my life. Right? And you can do it and you can make it easier, et cetera. We can unpack that. But in order to make it a disciplined life, you first need to tell yourself, what are the inputs that make it disciplined? Right? And the willpower is then the adherence to do these things. And every time you eat the junk food, well, you don't have the willpower because you actually went against your goal. Right? This clear so far?
Yeah, 100%.
So you first and foremost, you have to have your goals. If you don't have your goal, you can't complete step one, which is architecting a disciplined life, because you don't know what to architect it around. There's nothing to optimize it around. Dude, like the more I've gone into this, just like space and what I coach on and what I talk on, goals are fucking everything.
Yeah.
And are you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say, like, you know, I completely agree. Like, that's why I'm so psyched to pick up my my Master Vision or Flourishing Self book, because up until 6 months ago, I had goals, like you say, but it was amorphous. It was kind of blurry. It was blobby.
Yeah, it's up in the ether.
It was just a cloud.
Yeah,
and so that's why I said my point of, like, when you're not clear on when I was like facing more anxiety, loss, confusion, like, fuck, what do I want to do? It's because I wasn't clear on my goals. So that's the downstream effect of, like, not having the goal in place. And so anyways, like, I'm just, I agree. So this is all making perfect sense to me. So
bingo.
Yeah.
So you have to have your goals, but most importantly, and this is where everyone that says they have goals, this is where, you kind of get shut down here. You need to have clarity on your goals, and you need to keep that clarity every single day, but I would even argue every single minute. At any moment, you could test me, and I would be hard pressed if I couldn't rift off all my goals right now that I have for 2024, and even my long-term goals. Why? Because I literally look at them every day.
Yeah.
Okay. And why is this so important? Well, first of all, the moment you lose sight of your goals is the moment you don't know if this decision or this decision is the right one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And secondly, we live in the most noisiest world we've ever lived in. The brain is overloaded from inputs, stimulus, and more importantly, distractions. Because if we define a distraction as anything that isn't goal, everything's a fucking distraction. Okay. So the moment you lose goal, right, even for 5 minutes, like, it's actually crazy to think about this. Someone could lose sight of their goal just for 5 minutes, mind you, a day or a week. They could look at the wrong tweet, the wrong ad, get a text message, run into the wrong person, and all of a sudden some compelling thing comes in front of them, aka shiny object syndrome, and they lose sight of that goal forever.
Yeah.
How many times has that happened in the world? I know it's happened to me before.
Totally.
Right? And that goal just vanishes simply because you forgot about your goal for potentially 5 minutes. Mind you, what most people do is forget about it for a month, and then they're like, oh yeah, I was actually going to try to get, in shape this summer. Meanwhile, you're fucking smashing down on some pizza, or smashing down on some donuts. So you can never lose sight of your goal. And I'm not exaggerating when I say, as much as I'm talking about this, I'm not exaggerating. So how do you do that? Simply put, I'm biased. You should have a goal book. You should have something like the Flourishing Self. Join Above Men to do so. Okay, a little plug. But outside of that, the simple way to do this is literally super basic. Whatever your goals are, first of all, have goals. And then second of all, write them down and make multiple copies of them. And I want you to put them in your bathroom, your bedroom, I want you to make it your screensaver on your desktop, screensaver on your phone. I want you to put it in your car. I want you to put it everywhere. You shouldn't be able to go more than an hour without seeing your goal, without you actually purposely going and seeing it. Okay? And then I want you to read them out loud daily, and I want you to recite them and practice. Because again, if you're not doing this, if you're not optimizing towards your goal, to the degree you're not optimizing towards your goal, you're optimizing towards someone else's goal, right? So that's step one. You have to have your fucking goals. The rest of it is you got to stay organized. The messier you are, the even if you had your goals clear, but you're constantly messy, right? You know, it's harder to go towards the goal, right? Because you're constantly like your ability to think and act, goes down, right? And so what does that look like? Keep a fucking clean house, right? Like we try to stay committed to keeping the kitchen clean at night, keeping our areas clean, and it helps a ton.
Yeah.
Would you say?
100%, without a doubt.
Hmm.
Yeah. Goes with the making the bed in the morning.
Yep.
Kitchen's huge. Your desk, your workspace.
Bingo.
Yep.
Bingo. So you got to stay organized. You got to keep your surroundings clean. That's number one. Everything should have a place. You got to have a place for it. If it doesn't have a place, it doesn't belong, right? You got to keep the bigger one. You got to keep your mind organized. You got to keep your mind clean. So one of the
meditate, brother. Jeez.
Big time. So that kind of ties into the mental and the spiritual, I'd say, because you got to also keep your spirit clean in a way.
Yeah.
If you have a bunch of fucking baggage spiritually, that's going to make it really hard to be disciplined. Because if you're disciplined and that's adhering to the goal, well, if you're constantly being pushed around from all this emotional baggage, it's going to be much harder to be making the right decision when you're constantly being thrown off by some emotional whatever, right? So the mind, going back to the mind for a second, we, especially as busy guys, if you run a business, just in the world in general, but especially if you run a business or if you're, in a high performing role, the amount of shit that goes into your brain every single day, all the tasks you got to do, the email follow-ups you got to do, all of it, right? Like right now, you're following up with a bunch of people, you're trying to, create content, you're running, you're training for an Ironman, you need to eat food, like all of that things are stuff that needs to be sorted somewhere to say like, hey, Jordan, do this at some point, right? And then all the ideas and whatnot, those are all, if undealt with, I call open loops. Anything that is unfinished. The question is, where do you keep them? Most guys are going to keep them in the mind. Now, what does that do? First of all, the mind isn't a to-do list. It's not meant to be a to-do list. It's not meant to like have a list of shit just built up in there. And it's the worst at that. So why do that? But that's the reality of things. And what happens is we bog our mind down. And what does that cause? It makes it harder to be disciplined. It makes it harder to make the right decision. And so when the brain is constantly loaded up, we're not able to think as clear, meaning we're more likely to lose direction and clarity, and we're not able to feel good, which then again leads us to not wanting to take the right decisions, lowering our willpower, etc. So what I say is have some sort of task management system. Again, in Above OS, in Above Men, we have a system called Above OS. Some sort of task management system and idea and notes thing where you can empty your brain and just constantly keep everything out of your brain. As soon as a task comes up, don't keep it in here, write it in your system. And the more you can empty this, the more space you can have to think about what's the most important thing, which is your goal or the next step towards your goal. And, we both know this quote, which is whatever the mind of man thinks about most of the time, that's what he becomes. I screwed that up.
Yeah. Whatever the man, start it. I'll finish the second part. Whatever the man can choose to believe.
No, that's a different quote. You're thinking of the Napoleon Hill one. I'm thinking of Earl Nightingale.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, it's
can conceive.
No, that's Napoleon Hill.
I swear that's
Napoleon Hill. Because that one goes, whatever the mind of man can conceive and bring itself to believe, it can achieve.
Yeah.
So that's in a different light. I was thinking of Earl Nightingale's where it's like whatever you think about most of the time, that's what you're going to get, basically.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I have to finish this up. I know exactly what quote you're talking about now. If whether you think you can or you think you can't, the answer is true.
That's Henry Ford. But the confidence was there. The confidence was there. Drop a comment if you like the confidence on that one. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, and that's Henry Ford. But you got to keep your mind clear. So that is the two pieces: surroundings and mind. You got to keep that. And the last one I'm gonna talk on, and then I'm gonna kind of shut up, and I'll actually see if you have anything to add. But is around your digital world. Okay, we got our surroundings, we got our mind, and now we have our digital world that we got to understand. When you open your computer, is it fucking full of shit? Is your desktop, with a bunch of different stuff on it? Is your Chrome packed with tabs, or your bookmark bar packed with stuff? Again, that's all things that are just going to slow you down and potentially throw a kink in things to get distracted. So clean it up. Notifications is a huge one. Turn off all your notifications that aren't important. 99% of notifications aren't important. Delete all the fucking apps that you had when you were 16 years old off your phone, and keep shit clean. Keep your digital space clean. I'm going to stop there. I don't know if you have anything else to add, but I'm going to stop there. And this is probably a 1/20th of the entire system that I built over at aboveclub.co/memos on how to be disciplined, which I highly recommend you go check out. But do you have any other thoughts on that, or?
No, not at all. I mean, this is what we preach. This is what we live openly. I need to still working on the relationship with my phone. Like that to me, that is out of everything there, the environment, like a lot of this can be solved with just having the phone, whether that's under your bed or you leave it up on the kitchen counter and then you go for a work sesh. Just get it out of your work environment, whatever you're doing. That in and of itself will just change your life.
Bingo.
Bottom line. Out of anything you can do in that entire list, that laundry list, the phone solves a lot of that.
So much.
I think.
Because the reason is the phone's the biggest problem.
Yeah, 100%.
It's crazy how much the phone. And going back to my survey, lack of discipline, number one. Number two, addiction to phone. Why? Because it's always on us.
Totally. So, that's all good stuff.
Yeah.
You've got discipline mapped out, so go read the memo.
Yeah.
And just use your willpower to go read the memo.
Yeah, because we didn't even talk on willpower. Again, this is a huge, you can't just unpack this at the end of a podcast that we're about to wrap up. But I wanted to start to unpack it because we've kind of been talking about discipline, and it was kind of on my mind. And I wanted to give everyone a bit of a taste on it. And literally that was one section of it. In limiting inputs is what you were just talking about around your phone. So again, limit when you're working. If you're trying to be disciplined right now and have the willpower to continue to make the decision to work on the thing, the phone right beside you on the desk while you're working is going to drain your willpower.
Literally.
But if you just limit the inputs and you just don't have your phone around, then you don't even need to use your willpower. And this is called the concept of playing your willpower on offense, not defense. You just made the decision prior to you sitting down that I'm just not even going to bring my phone with me.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's simple too, because even though it's 10 feet away, if you have it up on the kitchen counter too, and then if you...
Because out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And and you have that phantom reach for the phone. You've probably heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever that phrase is. But then you reach for it and then your thought comes in, you're like, oh, my phone's not here. But then because if you just made the decision for yourself an hour earlier that you were going to stay disciplined by leaving your phone up there, that you're not going to now get in your own way and be like, oh, I'm going to go up and grab my phone now. That's ridiculous. That would make me feel like such a
because now you got to think about it.
Am I that fucking weak that I can't, that I have to go and check my phone for what? Kind of thing. So just by doing, even though it's 5 feet away, you'll just, because it's out of your mind. Yeah. And because even if you did think about it, you're just not that type. You're not going to go up and get it. I mean, if you did, that's nuts. Then you need some more work. There's a lot more work
again, and if we actually unpack that example, if you actually go and grab it, then you got to ask yourself, well, what is the next step to add friction, right? Okay, if it's not putting you on the counter 10 feet away, adding more friction. Exactly. So now it's like, instead of it being 10 feet away on the counter, it's now like I'm giving it to my girlfriend, or I'm giving it to my housemate. It's like, hey, hide this for me.
I'm going to put it in the fucking air gutter and the
Literally
air conditioning.
I'm fucking unscrew the thing. But that's the idea, right? Is add friction.
Totally.
Like, how much friction can you add? And again, depending on, and this is where the disciplined life plays in, is because you're making all of these decisions ahead of time to architect a system that allows you to just not even have to use your willpower. Again, we still want to use it and but that's an example. It's like, how can we build something in where it's like, hey, we're just being disciplined because we have no choice but to be disciplined. It's like adding friction. It's one of those. It's like, hey, if you're a fucking weak little hedonic boy right now, and doesn't matter where your phone is in your space, you're going to go grab it. Well, then give it to your partner, give it to your housemate, or put it in your air vent. And there you go. You can't use it, right? So anyways, if you want more, I'd be down to do a whole fucking podcast solo or with you, and we can unpack literally the entire system.
Yeah, no, I think there's more to cover.
And if that's the case, let us know. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment, hit me up on Instagram at Cam Russell, or on the podcast. Let us know that you want more. And if so, we'll make a whole other episode. But until then, go check out aboveclub.co/Moment of Men. Subscribe, read that memo. And once this comes out, I actually will have YouTube videos on this as well. So check it out. Little tease. And we'll wrap it up with that, I think.
Yeah, that's a good place to end it.
Yeah. So on that note, some more call to actions. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're watching this.
Yep.
Let us know how you're liking this. You know, episode 4, we're getting better.
Yeah.
Getting better at the flow, the setup. Give us a like, rating.
Yes. And the feedback's very important. Like
big time.
Like what areas we want to double tap on, like everything. But I do, like, I think we're the pillars of content, and the areas that we've been going down is all aligned. I think it's good stuff. So, yeah, super.
Yeah, lots of good topics that we touched on here.
And we're gonna, I mean, there is a infinite reservoir of stuff to cover here that'll be never ending. And that flow that we got into earlier with the about women and where that fed into,
we love
like
it.
that was bliss.
Yeah, we love it.
We're just on this road to that was just kept driving. It was sick. So
so let us know.
Yeah.
Because again, we like talking about certain things, but at the same time, you're the listener. So if you want,
I would love 100%. If you guys just posted like any questions or I had this thought, what's your take? That'd be sick.
Yeah.
We could just build an entire episode off that.
Totally.
Kind of.
And eventually, I think we'll do some Q&A, like maybe post it on our stories and then like answer them. But
it'd be sick if people called in and shit.
Do a little live call show. Yeah, maybe. But anyways, check me out on Instagram at Cam Russell, and obviously I plugged Memno Man, and then Jabes.
Jabes_JB and biz.athlete on TikTok. I'm gonna sync both of these up so we can just say biz athlete.
You're gonna change your username on Instagram. I think you should.
To biz athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I got to figure out if there's gonna be underscore. Obviously, biz athlete might be taken.
Yeah. Not confirmed yet. Yeah. So there it is. We'll catch you on next episode.
Yeah, brother.
Peace.
See you.